Hello there. This is the tale of Old House Woods. Old House Woods has long been considered one of the most haunted forests in the world, depending on what list you read. Old House Woods is located in Matthews County, Virginia, right outside of the small town of Diggs. And the woods themselves are right off the Chesapeake Bay. There is a public beach access right near the woods, but you do have to drive through endless backcountry roads to get there. And I highly recommend it. It is a beautiful ride. However, last time I was there, they were clear cutting everything around those woods because we're not allowed to have nice things, haunted things, cursed things, things that make this life worth living. If anything, we should be allowed to have our cursed woods. I'm gonna stand behind that. I'll stand in those cursed woods. I don't care. I'll hug every cursed tree in those woods. Watch me do it. We need them. We need those places in this world. We need them. Because you know what they want to do? They want to put cursed condominiums there. So in case anyone's thinking of buying, just know, cursed. I don't make the rules. Those cursed woods were there before. There's definitely going to be like a cursed Walgreens or a cursed CVS, knowing this area. A cursed 7-Eleven for sure. So Old House Woods got its name from an old house that was in the woods. So that old house in the woods was called the Franny Knight House, and it was built sometime during the 1700s. So this house was lived in during the colonial era and then abandoned. Now, of course, over time, nature took over this building, and it got itself a little spooky reputation. So like most abandoned buildings taken over by nature, there soon became rumors about a witch living in the house. And then of course you had your typical paranormal haunted house rumors. People claimed to hear voices coming from that house. People claimed to see lights floating about that house at night. That's the good stuff. So this house, like a lot of houses from that era, caught on fire. So this fire eventually burned out, but the house was still standing. So this, of course, led the local townspeople to believe that this house was so haunted that it lit itself on fire and then put itself out of fire so that it could continue to be a super scary, demonic, haunted house and, I don't know, scared the townspeople. What's it gonna do? Get up and come after you? You have to go to it to have a scary experience. You're going and bothering the house. The house isn't bothering you. And years later, the house caught on fire again. But this time the house burnt to the ground. There was nothing left. So I guess the evil spirit that was living there, terrorizing the townsfolk by simply just existing in the woods, finally decided to move. I would. These people sound like jerks. So the evil spirit decided it was done living in those horrid conditions with those horrible neighbors. I'm sorry to everybody that lives in Matthews County. I know you're all actually really cool. Now, fun history fact, pirates did actually used to sail up and down the Chesapeake Bay. And they did this because there were many small coves and inlets and swamps that they could hide their ship from the law. Sounds like a bunch of ocean cowboys. The geography of the Chesapeake Bay also gave these pirates plenty of creative places to bury their treasure. Oh yeah, we're going there. We're going there. And Old House Woods was one of their favorite places to bury their treasure. You look like a mighty fine pair of woods to bury my treasure in. So this legend goes that sometime in the 1600s, this pirate ship sailed into the bay. And then they got into their little rowboats and rowboated into Old House Woods. And why did they do this? To bury their treasure, of course. That's what pirates do. They rode into that swamp, looked around, picked a spot, buried that treasure, and called it a day. Just good old-fashioned pirate fun. And when those pirates sailed back out to sea, they were completely wiped out by a massive storm. Because this is a pirate's tale and not a fairy tale. So it had to end bloody. Or, actually, watery. because what's more pirate than ending up in a watery grave? And so, because everyone died on that ship, there was no one left to remember where the treasure was buried. Because dead men tell no tales. Because again, this is a pirate tale and not a fairy tale. There are no happy endings, and no one finds the treasure. Ever. And so that treasure remains in the cursed woods. However, it is said that the souls of those pirates still wander those cursed woods looking for their long-lost treasure. People claim to see their apparitions wandering in and out of the woods with their ghostly lantern light. Now it's said that on nights when the moon is full and glittering off the water, you could see a fully masted pirate ship sailing towards you from the beach of Old House Woods. But then, once that ship reaches the shore, it floats up into the air, Peter Pan style. So now this ghostly ship that is floating in the air floats on over to the top of Old House Woods, where you can then see an old rope ladder being tossed over the ship, and then ghostly forms of pirates climbing down it into the woods. And then you can see their ghostly lantern light illuminating in and out of the trees. And then you hear the voices of men talking and yelling at each other about where their treasure is. Because I guess death made them forget. Just remember, you can't take it with you. But eventually, all goes quiet in the forest, and you can watch that ghost ship sail back out to sea and disappear. Another interesting story happened to a local duck hunter who was out in the woods looking for ducks. But what this duck hunter found were dark, shadowy, amorphous blobs floating in and out of the water. Definitely not ducks. But he was a hunter, so of course he shot at these strange little blobs in the water. A man's gotta eat, even if it's strange, weird blobs from the woods. But these strange little blobs weren't having that. They weren't about to be somebody's dinner. Because what happened next? What happens next? Those weird little blobs stood up and grew into the forms of British redcoat soldiers. No one expects the redcoats. This is truly turning into the hunting trip from hell. And what did these ghostly British redcoat soldiers do? They shot back at him, because that's what soldiers do. So the duck hunter, being properly freaked out at this point, gets the hell out of there. Oh, but there was something waiting for him at the edge of the woods. Another British redcoat soldier. Because of course there's going to be one standing guard. They're soldiers. That's what they do. What was the duck hunter thinking? Probably not that he was going to run into ghostly redcoat soldiers. And because we are dealing with British redcoat soldiers, even ghostly ones, the soldier standing guard tried to shoot at him too. But luckily for this duck hunter, this ghost soldier's gun got jammed. Yeah, you heard that right. His ghost gun got jammed. Explain that to me. Could you imagine, like, this is where your spirit lies for eternity, and then the one time you get to do your job, and then your ghost gun jams on you? The one time that you need it. I would be so done. But luckily, because the ghost soldier's gun jammed, the duck hunter made it home safely that day and lived to tell his weird-ass tale. These cursed woods also have their own woman in white. And who is the woman in white, you ask? Good question. Well, a woman in white is just your generic tragic lady spirit wearing a white dress. They're all over the world. Very popular with beaches, mansions, and castles. And this woman in white likes to stand on the beach, her gown billowing in the ocean breeze. She's glowing and looking absolutely ethereal. But this woman in white has a job to do, other than just standing around looking beautiful. It's said that whenever a storm was approaching, that she would scream an unearthly scream so that all the town folks would hear her and be warned about the storm. Because this was back in the day before the weatherman would be on TV standing in the storm screaming at you that there's a storm. So if you happen to live in that general area and hear unearthly, horrible screaming, maybe check your local forecast or call the police. There are also stories about black horses that attack people who go into the cursed woods, which is reasonable. Also black dogs that like to chase and attack people who enter the cursed woods. Oh, you thought there wouldn't be hellhounds in there? There are also stories of a headless cow that haunts those woods. I assume he's the big boss. He's the last one you gotta fight to get out of the cursed woods. Another fun story happened in the 1920s to a man named Mr. Hudgens. Now one night, Mr. Hudgens was walking down one of the lonely forest roads near Old House Woods when he saw a couple of men with lanterns up ahead on the road. But when he got closer to these men, he realized that they were wearing old-style colonial armor. Think John Smith. And then when he got even closer, he realized that there weren't fleshy humans underneath that armor, just skeletons. Could you imagine? You walk up on these guys and it's not flesh, it's just skeletons wandering around on the road. Anyway, so one of those skeletons starts maniacally laughing at Mr. Hudgens and then pulls a sword out on him. We do not have a jamming gun situation here, we have a sword situation here. We have a full-on Skeletor with a sword situation going on right now. This is ridiculous. So of course Mr. Hudgens gets the hell out of there. That's better. You'll get out soon enough, skeleton. Now there was also a news article about a man who was driving around the same area when he had tire trouble and ended up stranded on the road. And as he's alone on this dark road trying to fix his car, he hears a disembodied voice coming from the forest saying, "Is this the King's Highway? I've lost my ship." So this poor man turns around to look and see where this voice is coming from. And what he sees is the colonial skeleton man waving his sword around. And that man abandoned his car right then and there and ran all the way back to town. So if you're not a runner, I highly recommend just keeping a sword around in case you run into Skeletor, colonial sword man. Have a proper fight. There have also been mysterious disappearances in these woods because they're cursed. Both these disappearances take place in the 1800s. And if you are a follower of the missing 411 phenomena, there are a lot of elements in both these stories that fit the criteria. These are antique missing 411s. So in the 1800s, Mr. Locke Owens and a Mr. Pidge Morgan were driving a cart and cattle in the woods. They were on their way back home from a cattle auction, and once they entered the woods, they disappeared, and they were never seen or heard from again. Not even the cart or the cattle were ever found. Absolutely nothing was seen from them ever again. Our next missing traveler is a man named Tom Pipkin, and he was a local fisherman who lived in the area in the 1800s, who grew up hearing the stories about buried pirate treasure in the woods. And one day he decides that he's going to go find that treasure. So he put his little rowboat into the channel and rowed himself into the cursed woods. And Tom Pipkin was never seen again. However, a week after he disappeared, they found his rowboat in the woods. And there was nothing in that boat except for 2 Roman coins. And nobody could ever figure out where those coins came from or where he went. Did some horrible thing befall Tom Pipkin because he found the pirate treasure in the cursed woods? I wouldn't think that anything good would happen to the person that touches that treasure. Okay, this is a full-on Black Pearl situation. And only Captain Jack Sparrow and a bottle of rum are going to get you out of that situation. And those are the legends of Old House Woods. And if you decide to go wandering about those cursed woods, make sure you bring a sword, and a gun, and a bottle of rum. Just be prepared to fight a bunch of ghost pirates, or you may end up as one of them.